We're going to take a moment for prayer. So I invite you to get yourself into a prayerful place. Take a deep breath and just sink into your chair. Come into that place of peace. We are grateful to be here this morning, together as one, to experience this flow of life, moving in and through each of us, moving in and through all things in nature, every object, every species, at all times. This flow of life that connects us by a golden thread, tearing down this illusion of separation. We sit here in this moment, experiencing this presence as only one presence, tying us together as brothers and sisters in this room, equal and blessed in all ways. We're grateful that we have found each other and we've come together in community this morning, right here, right now, in this presence. Amen.
Now let's sing that again. You are the light of love. I am the light of love. You are the light. I am the light. We are the light of love. Sing it out. You are the light of peace. You are the light of peace. I am the light, the light, the light. You are the light. I am the light. We are the light of peace. You are the light of joy. I am the light of joy. You are the light. I am the light. We are the light of joy. Here comes hope. You are the light of hope. I am the light of hope. You are the light. I am the light. We are the light of hope. You are the light of love. I am the light of love. You are the light. I am the light. We are the light of love. You are the light. I am the light. We are the light of love.
Good morning, everyone. So that excerpt that you just heard was a speech that was done by a Swedish activist who, at 15, began protesting outside the Swedish Parliament August 2018 about the need for immediate action to combat climate change. You can see other videos of her. She's a very special soul that I think has come here to really make a difference and remind us older people that we have to start protecting this planet for our children and for our grandchildren and our unseen great-grandchildren. How I heard this audio actually came from a vacation that I was on with my children and my whole family a week ago. We went to Austin, Texas to visit my brother in his new home and just spent days of talking and chatting about life and catching up about everything that's happening in our individual lives, and lots of laughter and lots of family time. But there was one night that we were all sitting at this very fancy restaurant that looked over this beautiful, beautiful lake. And we were starting to get a little, New Yorker-ish, talking about all the issues of the planet and the world. And each one of us had different areas that we felt more focused on what was the most dire situation that we would like to see healed or fixed. And we enjoy having conversations like this. We love debating with each other. It's just in our nature. We also really learn a lot from one another because there's some things that I've studied more on and the other, my brother studied more on, and we can really share it together and have a conversation. But we were getting kind of in our space and in this heated place. And then my daughter, just out of nowhere, my 22-year-old daughter goes, "It's the environment. The environment is the most important thing that's happening right now." And she starts crying. And she's embarrassed because she's never really spoken up with our level of debate. She usually is like, "No, I'll just sit back and observe this." But this was her turn to say, "I'm an adult. And this is what's most important to me." And so she ran out of the restaurant, and I went and sat with her, and my mom sat with her, and we just sat with her while she just cried. Just to see the fear and the overwhelm she feels that she's carrying to try to fix this planet. She's such a deep-hearted person. She loves creatures. She loves this planet. She loves everything about it. She's raised to love it. And yet, I don't feel like I've been putting my head in the sand. I mean, I do recycle, and I do have my showers going very, not long showers. The air conditioning's not running when we're leaving, all of those things. But there's always more that we can do. And it really pushed to my core that I have to do more. I have got to do absolutely everything I can to help this planet for my unseen grandkids, my great-grandkids, my great-great-grandkids. I have to start looking down the aisle of life that I'm not going to see. I have to start protecting as if it's all those generations, that they're just as important to me as the ones that I hold and love now. And so on that trip, we had 15 family members, and we don't eat out, really. We all just kind of gather around breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's really kind of the fun that we do. We went to lakes, and we swam in the pool and all that stuff. But through the years, somehow the role of the 3-meal cooking has fallen on me, and I'm not sure who voted that in our family. But everybody is a different diet. We've got keto, we've got vegan, we've got vegetarian, gluten-free, we've got, it's like... And my mom's like, "I want to help you, but I do not understand any of these diets. At this point, I'm out, so. And so I had to find the zen in the cooking, because, I kind of was I had this fantasy that I was going on vacation. But no, I was actually just going to put an apron on and stand in a galley like I had an army to feed for 7 days. So it was a good test on totally going into the cooking. You know what I mean? Just really being a cook. Enjoying the fact that I don't have phones ringing, that I'm not being distracted by 1,000 other things. I'm literally taking this time to be in a zen state and reinvent meals. And I really actually enjoyed it a lot, because most of my life is throwing food together because I'm in a hurry to get to teaching a class or whatever. But obviously, we don't use plastic forks or paper plates or anything like that. We just don't. That is just an absolute no-no. So I'm washing all those dishes of 15 people for every single meal, too. So you can imagine once it's all clean and the cycle's done on that washer, it's back to cooking again. So I realized that I've been raised in a family that's always been extremely aware of this planet. We always have never used disposable anything. We would never take food home from a restaurant that's got styrofoam. Ever, ever, ever. We would not support a restaurant that would use styrofoam to send food home. Because this planet is an extension of us. What are you willing to do for your children is what we have to be doing for this planet. We have to see her like we have to protect her more than we ever have, and we don't do it from a fearful place. But we find a place of love to almost, we're good with competition, competing with ourselves. What's another thing that we can add to our regiment to be more of a co-creator with God and be that the extension of the healing that is being called at this time? And it's not down the road now. We're not even looking like we have 20 years. Now it's really upon us. You know, if you look speeches of 10 years ago, 15 years ago, of sermons I was researching, they thought it was dire then. And it is so much worse now. Our environment is one of the greatest examples we have of God's power. The word environment encompasses all of God's most beautiful and awesome works. The environment is his creation, a precious and holy resource with which he entrusted all humans the loving care and wise use of. God asked all humans to be stewards of the environment. And in Genesis 1:28, it says this, "Then he said to Adam and Eve, 'Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, and over every living creature that moves on the ground.'" Be fruitful and increase in number. So let's just overpopulate this planet. Fill the earth and subdue it and control it and think you have a right to actually mess with anything but order and harmony. Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, and oversee living creature that moves on the ground. I don't feel like that Bible quote really has helped our Christian community through the years. There's a lot of ego in that God gave us the power to do whatever we wanted with this planet. But there's different ways to interpret that Bible quote. We can turn that around. We can look at that metaphysically, because if we're honorable Christian people, or we're honorable Buddhist people, if we're honorable whatever spiritual path we are, we will always be a co-creator from a higher knowing, from the ego sense of what does that mean to have dominion over this planet. Means you are a steward at the core of who you are. Anything that you see is calling your attention. You grab that piece of trash and you run with it. You take it. You are the one. We are the arms and the legs. We are the only ones that are going to get us out of this. And it's really exciting. If you think that if we can connect in a collective awareness, that in our oneness, arm in arm, we can start protecting with everything that we are before anything else. This beautiful planet that's given us so much. Don't we want the next generations to see the things that we've gotten to see, to feel the things we felt from this planet, to have the sun be a natural thing where we're not really scared of it because it burns you like that. The heat, the earth is heating up. It's heated up so much in the last year. If you look at what scientists are showing, the heat levels, so the fires are a really big problem. And our oceans are devastated with trash. In our ecosystems and our oceans, our coral is dying at a speed that is, at this point, how are we going to reclaim nature? And it all has to do of this degree growth in heat. But God was not giving humanity a command to use this creation in any selfish way that he wanted. With no thoughts of the future consequences, God was issuing to us a challenge of taking responsibility over this incredible and vast creation and using it wisely, carefully, and loving. God wanted to give us an opportunity to show that we could rule over this creation as patiently and tenderly. He was giving us something indescribably beautiful and useful to see if we could subdue it as servant rulers, worshiping Spirit and the grace through us that when we walk on this land, we are completely in our awareness, in our total and complete consciousness of love and healing and protection. You might almost want to look at it like, what is the one thing in your life you love more than anything else? You never feel anything but absolute and total unconditional love. Which, if we have children, it's probably our children. Hopefully it's our spouses. Or you have that dog that just is so happy to see you when you come home. If we could find that warm and squishy place in ourselves to look at the earth as a living, breathing vehicle for life. And she needs our love. The earth will not continue to offer its harvest except with faithful stewardship. We cannot say we love the land and then take steps to destroy it for use by future generations. The earth will not continue to offer its harvest except with faithful stewardship. We cannot say we love the land and then take steps to destroy it for use of future generations. And another reason I'm concerned about the environment from a spiritual perspective standpoint is that the human greed that is destroying God's creation is damaging the lives of others, both now and in the future. As a co-creator with Spirit, I have a responsibility to care about what happens to all people, not just myself and those that I know. It's all of my brothers and sisters that I don't see. This environment is crying for our attention, and how many of us are kind of putting our head in the sand because we can barely bear to talk about it? I understand it. I've been involved in that. I can't even live and breathe it, but some of you out there probably work in a work where you've seen the oceans changing. Is there anybody out there that's seen it with their own eyes? And how did it make you feel? You can call it out. Sad. Has anybody seen anything different about the climate that you're living in? How many of you have seen a difference in your climate? And how does that make you feel? Mad. You're comfortable? Uncomfortable. Tired. Scared. Yeah. So those are a lot of feelings that will keep us from looking upon something because we don't want to visit those unsettled places within ourselves. That's a place that none of us really want to go, is into the scared or the uncomfortable places within our beings. But if we don't face the areas in our life where we can't start to heal our inner beings, then what kind of stewards can we be for the bigger picture of why we chose this life this time? We're at the door. We're the ones that have been called. So there's a greater purpose in growing our spiritual consciousness so that we can heal the things inside of ourselves, so we can get out there and start at that grassroots level this young woman's talking about, and not making our selfish needs more important than the global picture. That's what God would want. That's the only second of coming of Christ that's ever going to happen, is a consciousness shift. I want to read an excerpt of a sermon that Billy Graham wrote. And I'm going to read it to you about in 2009, where he thought we were going. The Bible says, by faith Noah, being divinely warned of beings not yet seen, moved with godly fear, prepared an ark, in Hebrews 11:7. God told Noah to build an ark or ship out in the desert. Noah had no place to sail the ship, but he was to build it. God told him that he would save Noah and his family when the destruction came. So Noah started out, and judgment eventually came. God spoke to Noah again and said, Noah, I'm going to give the world 7 more days, and then the flood will come, in Genesis 7:4. Today, the only bright spot on the horizon of this world is the promise of the coming again of Christ, the Messiah. We can't go on much longer morally. We can't go on much longer scientifically. The technology that was supposed to save us is ready to destroy us. New weapons are being made all the time, including chemical and biological weapons. In Isaiah 66, we read that the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind to render his anger with fury. Doesn't that make you feel warm and squishy? And then in Isaiah 66:15, it says it this way. In the New Testament, we read that Christ said, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. In John 14:2-3. So this is what he's sharing with his congregation at that time, as if, yeah, it's looking really grim out there, but the only hope we have is the second coming of the Christ, the Messiah. Do you know how big the Christian movement is? And do you know what a serious excuse that is? That you can just keep destroying this planet. Don't worry, because we can bank on it. Jesus is going to come back and he's going to fix it all. What will he have to fix? What type of resources will be here for Jesus to fix in this supposed so-called coming back of Jesus? But when you look at the Bible metaphysically, it's saying that the second coming is the death of the old energy, the old limitation. It's what we're seeing in the world. Look at all the darkness. There's so much darkness. Nobody watches the news. It's too much to watch. But through the darkness is a brokenness that happens within us, and a resurrection of the Christ light comes into each and every one of us when we finally heal what is broken inside of us, and we become the Christ being that is so totally awake. So totally alive. The second coming of Christ is us. It's us. Wouldn't it be nice to just sit back and think, oh, Christ will just come and fix it all? Well, that's lazy thinking. We always want to depend on someone else to take care of the garbage. But if we keep doing that, then we're facing a catastrophic experience, even in our own lifetimes. This prepared place for us is in our consciousness. The return of Christ is the return of a heightened spiritual consciousness within us. We call it Christ consciousness. If we keep going on as we can keep making the mess of everything, we are going to be in a situation where we are not going to be able to fix this. How many of you have small children under 10 years old? How many people have children under 20 years old? So, how many of you have ever thought of the perspective that your children someday are going to have children? And yet we don't really stake claim to them until they tell us that that child is coming. You know, we're kind of narrow-viewed that when we have our kids, those are our kids, and all of a sudden, oh my God, people go, oh my God, I'm a grandma, and it's the best thing in the entire world. Then you want to do everything for them. But what if you never had kids? But you'd probably have a sister or a brother or a nephew or a someone that had kids. Could you do it for their great-grandkids and their great-grandkids? To visualize someone that you love so much that you want to see all those generations to get to have the great opportunity of this wonderful, wonderful, powerful, beautiful planet. To draw towards the beings that are not here yet, to fight for them, the ones that have no voice. In Silence of the Heart, it says, when does the kingdom of heaven come to earth? As soon as you accept the light, own it and become it. As soon as you are willing to open your heart and walk through your fears. As soon as you are willing to see yourself reflected in your brother's eyes. When does the Messiah come? No, not later, not even at the end of time, but now. Now is the end of time. The end of separation. Now is the end of self-crucifixion. The end of projection. The final death knell of fear. Now. Do not place salvation in the future, or it will never come. Ask for it now. Accept it now. God's kingdom manifests in this moment only, in this place, now. Let's sit with that for a second. Take a deep breath. And if you're feeling a little bit of adrenaline right now, you can say, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. It really is. We've got this. I have the most unbelievable faith in the beauty of all you people. I get to interact with you all the time. We have saints in this place. All of you I know are doing a great work and are already doing the right thing. It's just a matter of doing more. You know, we all are too busy. We all are working 2 jobs. We are all trying to do marriage, and we're all trying to work at night and work in the day and somehow do the perfect recycling and do the perfect thing with your composting and making sure we're saving the water that's coming off of our roofs and putting solar panels on the house as we can afford to. But to look inside yourself, where is something else that God is calling me to do today? Everybody has another thing we can add to a regimen for absolute healing for this powerful planet. Indigenous people are connected to the earth, not in some dreamy, romanticized way, but in reality. They're about walking on their bare feet, being conscious of the sympathetic touch of the earth. It is not hyperbole. Native people have always possessed an innate sense of our deep connection to the earth, fire, water, and wind. We have always known that a tree is alive and has children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. We've always known that the waters and the winds are our lifeblood and that the power of the fire is to be respected. We have always known how important it is to our future generations that we live our lives humbly and in balance and respect with Mother Earth. Over 5 centuries have passed since the arrival of the Italian profiteer Christopher Columbus, who brought a dark cloud of destruction to this ancient continent. And in that short span of time, we have watched as our once mighty primeval forests have been razed, our pristine rivers and water sources have poisoned, the air has been polluted, and landfill mountains have risen out of the earth. Today, now, humanity must seek to finally understand indigenous wisdom and at last learn to live in harmony with Mother Earth. Our very future on this planet hangs in the balance. So my question is, what is enough? You know, in this world where we're pining to attain more and more things as an expression of whether we're good enough or we're big enough or we show off enough or we are keeping up with the Joneses enough, when is it enough? When do you know that you are at a place that you are very blessed, so that there may be enough for everybody? That's a really deep question to ask yourself, because we always go, well, in 1 year, when I get that education, then I can move to here, and then I'm going to create this, and I'm going to do all this. But in the midst of you, is there enough? And if you get a strong yes, then you really need to start giving back more to this planet, to other people, to the homeless situation that we're seeing all around us. Because there is enough resources for everyone. But the human greed has taken over and still wants more and more and wants that big ass, excuse my language, suburban. I didn't mean to say that. I do apologize, that just came out of my mouth. The big suburban, you know, the big Cadillac trucks and all these things, they're just, you don't need all that unless you've got 10 people to take somewhere, right? So just to be mindful when you get your next car, you know, try to get a hybrid or try to get an electric car. To be in a consciousness that's always trying to see, how can I serve? What can I bring to today that I can make an actual difference? The ultimate test of man's conscience may be his willingness to sacrifice something today for future generations, whose words of thanks will not be heard. The ultimate test of man's conscience may be his willingness to sacrifice something today for future generations, whose words of thanks will not be heard. That's powerful. Because we are by nature survivalists in the short term, here and now. We know we live in a world with finite resources. If we see there is an extra resource that we don't really need, we will take it for our own good. It is not to our own personal gain to worry about if there is enough to go around, but our unborn grandchildren and great-grandchildren would pay anything for us to do something about the climate change now. But because they aren't here to help us, we take care of what we personally need right now. It is hard for us humans to help people that are not pitching in. And so people who haven't been born yet are at a disadvantage for not being able to help out on their own problem. Can you feel that? Because they're not touchable. It's not tangible. But you know what? When you put your hands in your heart, it is touchable. And it is tangible. I wanted to read Unity's mission statement together. Let's do this together. Unity of Boulder's mission statement: advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living, a community that embraces everyone with loving acceptance and gives tools to access the power within you to grow a greater connection with the unseen realms of spirit. Unity of Boulder is an environmental steward for change and embraces nonviolence and human dignity for all. Did you know that we've had solar panels that have been running this building for over 15 years? Do you know that every single product that we use in this place is all seventh generation and is absolutely environmentally protecting? Have you noticed that you cannot find a plastic or a paper cup in this place? We wash every single cup you ever use here. That's a lot of work, and that's a lot of sacrifice, but that's how much we want to show you what you can bring home to your home. Because if everybody in this room just made that difference, all of your detergents are clean. They're not hurting the water. Everything about this place is consciousness. And we just hope that you'll tap into it. And we're here to help you and recognize that it's, one foot in front of another. But today you could leave inspired. And if you just changed one thing, your unseen grandchildren and great-grandchildren will be like, good job, humble servant. Thank you. So I'm going to sing a prayer to the planet, and I'm going to have some lists of things that you can go home and you can do. These are all applicable things. Some are more expensive and some are not. May the long time sun shine upon you. Oh, love surround you, and the pure light within you heal all that binds you. A lot of you know this song, so you can sing it with me. May the long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure light within you heal all that binds you. We're going to do it one more time. I want to hear you sing. May the long time sun. May the long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure light within you.
This is a song by Matthew West. The tie is by Jerry Garcia. woke up this morning, saw a world full of trouble now. Thought, how'd we get so far down now? How we ever gonna turn around? So I lift my eyes to heaven, said, God, why don't you do something? Well, I just couldn't bear the thought of people living in poverty, children sold into slavery. The thought disgusted me, so I shook my fist at heaven, said, God, why don't you do something? He said, I did. I created you. Now listen, if not us, then who? If not me and you, right now, it's time for us to do something. If not now, then when will we see an end to all this pain? It's not enough to do nothing. It's time for us to do something. I'm so tired of talking about how we're God's hands and feet, how it's easier to say than to be, live like angels of apathy who tell ourselves it's all right, somebody else will do something. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of life with no desire. I don't want a flame, I want a fire. I want to be the one stands up and says, I'm gonna do something. How about you guys? If not us, then who? If not me and you, right now, it's time for us to do something. Yes, it is. If not now, then when will we see an end to all this pain? It's not enough to do nothing. It's time for us to do something. We're the salt of the earth, we're the city on the hill.
Shine, shine.
We're never gonna change the world by standing still. No, we won't stand still. No, we won't stand still. No, we won't stand still. If not us, then who? If not me and you, right now, it's time for us to do something. If not now, then when will we see an end to all this pain? It's time for not to do nothing. It's time for us to do something. It's time for us to do something. It's time for us to do something. It's time for us to do something.